Next, we'll hear from Catherine Eslinger. Catherine is a longtime member of the party. She is also very active in Utah politics. She's a former state legislative candidate for the United Utah Party, running in Orem and Vineyard in 2020. She's also heavily involved in Mormon Women for Ethical Government. Previously, she'd served as the Utah chapter co-lead, and now she's currently serving as the organization-wide Empower Limb Director, in which she helps women increase and act on their power to make change. All of this is in addition to being a successful wife and mother. And so, Catherine, we would love to hear from you today.
Thanks, Hillary, and I'm glad to see everyone today. So yes, my story with United Utah does begin in 2017. Early in 2017, I found myself with a desire to do something to engage more with governance and politics. And maybe you can relate in some way. In my case, I had spent roughly the previous decade swamped by the needs of a young family, and I almost felt that I had been asleep, paying very little attention to what was happening in my city, in my state, and in my country, and definitely neglecting any role that I could play personally. So within a couple of months of that recognition, I began making a lot of connections with capable and engaged people that were mostly women from across the political spectrum. And I began to see mentions of informational cottage meetings about a new political party that aimed to activate and appeal to the many Utahns in the middle. And previous to this, I had never attended a caucus meeting or a political convention. I had never met a campaigning politician. The most I had done was vote in most elections and yell at the radio when I heard about some government action that offended my sense of what was right and good. But I was drawn to United Utah because I was ready for a practical action step that I could take toward creating better government. UUP's focus on government reform, transparency, and accountability appealed to my desire for a more responsive government. UUP's motto is practical, not partisan. And as a person who is incurably practical, this was really appealing to me. And so I jumped into UUP in 2017. Jumping in early in any endeavor usually means that there are a lot of roles to fill, and UUP was no exception. My first role in the party was as events chair. And so I assisted in scheduling and planning those cottage meetings to spread the word about UUP. Now, party and event planning are not my forte. I am, by trade, I'm an English as a second language instructor. And while that's a really fun job, it is not party planning. So later I helped plan and set up booths at county fairs and the state fair and register our float for local parades. I organized some election night parties. I apologize if you attended any of those events and found them terribly boring because of my planning. But see, we need lots of fun and exciting people to help plan these events. So some of these events helped introduce hundreds of people, maybe even thousands at the parades to United Utah, and some may have only introduced one or two people. But every event that we hosted made a small difference or a bigger difference. I decided to run for state house in 2020, and I especially appreciated that UUP doesn't have a litmus test for candidates or for members. And so I didn't feel like I had to squeeze myself into a particular box. I appreciated that United Utah has an awareness of nuance and a respect for differences. Party affiliation can often feel like a shorthand about certain hot button political issues and a way of deciding, are you like me or are you different from me? But from my relationships with people across the political spectrum, I've learned that most people's views are much more nuanced and complicated than such a shorthand would indicate. And I appreciated that UUP gave me a chance to have substantive conversations with people as I canvassed my district, people who were mowing their lawns or doing yard work. Those were the conversations I was able to have in 2020. I hope that we can have more nuanced conversations in the future as more Utahns become familiar with UUP and we have more UUP candidates filing for office and winning their elections. My husband calls me a reckless optimist, jumping into any kind of endeavor that seems worthwhile. And this has given me a lot of opportunities in my life. And I invite you to become a reckless optimist for the cause of better government and jump into greater participation with United Utah.